Welcome back. You're watching Beyond World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Hem Kaur Saroy, and on the show today, US President Donald Trump has slammed media reports on a classified report that doubted the extent of the damage to Iranian nuclear sites. He has defended his claim that the US strikes obliterated Iran's nuclear program, something that he has been saying since the operation was launched. We'll be getting you the latest on that on the show today.
Also on World DNA, Ukrainian President Zelensky signed a landmark agreement aimed at prosecuting top Russian officials for the crimes of aggression and renewed calls to put Russian President Vladimir Putin on trial. More on the show. Let's start with the headlines.
NATO countries vote to raise defense spending to 5% of the GDP at their summit in The Hague. US President Trump terms the move a historic milestone but vows to make Spain pay on trade for resisting the NATO spending hike.
Donald Trump says US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth will hold a major news conference as his administration pushes to quell doubts over the damage done by US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities.
US President Donald Trump says Israeli justice system should drop its corruption case against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump calls the corruption probe a witch hunt that is politically motivated.
Ecuador's president announces the capture of the country's most wanted fugitive, the Los Choneros gang leader Fito, a year after he escaped from prison.
Eiffel Tower disappears behind a curtain of rain and clouds as heavy storm in Paris brings gushing winds and heavy rain on Wednesday.
Nvidia shares soared over 4% to a record high, making it the world's most valuable company at $3.77 trillion despite losing access to the massive Chinese market. Strong AI and data center growth continue to drive investor confidence. Donald Trump and his administration, they are resolutely defending Trump's claim that the US strikes obliterated Iran's nuclear program.
It has also hit back at accounts that Iran may have moved enriched uranium elsewhere before the US bombing.
Now, Trump has slammed media reports on a classified report that doubted the extent of damage to Iranian nuclear sites. Trump has announced that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and top Pentagon officials will hold a major news conference on Thursday to defend the great American pilots who carried out a perfect mission.
At the NATO press conference in the Netherlands, Trump publicly reprimanded the analysts who prepared the report, claiming it wasn't finished and should have been withheld until they actually knew the answer.
It was so bad that they ended the war. It ended the war. Somebody said in a certain way, that it was so devastating, actually. If you look at Hiroshima, if you look at Nagasaki, that ended a war too. This ended a war in a different way, but it was so devastating.
Hegseth and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio stepped forward at NATO to denounce attempts by leakers to spin the intelligence, stressing that the early assessment was labelled low confidence. Now, the White House also circulated a short statement attributed to the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission that said that the US strikes on Iran's fortified nuclear facility in Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility inoperable.
While the statement was much closer in tone and substance to Trump's position, but stopped short of claiming Iran's nuclear program has been obliterated. But that did not stop Trump from posting on Truth Social. Israel just stated that the nuclear sites were obliterated. Interestingly, the White House released the statement on behalf of an Israeli security agency almost half an hour before Israeli Prime Minister's office released it to the media.
Trump administration is treating the leak of an initial Pentagon battle damage assessment as an act of sabotage, launching an aggressive campaign to discredit the report as preliminary, inaccurate and already outdated. The FBI has launched an investigation into the breach. The administration also plans to limit sharing classified information with Congress to crack down on leakers.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe cited a new body of credible intelligence, including historically reliable sources and methods, that shows Iran's nuclear program have been severely damaged.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, whom Trump criticized just last week over her Iran assessment to Congress, said this on Wednesday, that new intelligence confirms that Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed and will take years to rebuild.
Another key question raised by experts is whether Iran moved out some 400 kilograms of enriched uranium, before the US strikes. Talking to Fox News, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called these reports false.
All right, and the Indian Defence Minister is speaking at the SCO summit. We're cutting live to the visuals coming in. Let's listen in.
Not hesitate to target them. We should also take proactive steps to prevent the spread of the radicalization among our youth. The RADS mechanism of SCO has played a significant role in this regard. The joint statement of the Council of SCO Heads of State on countering radicalization leading to terrorism, separatism and extremism, issued during India's chairmanship, symbolizes our shared commitment. Excellencies, we should seek to counter the technology used by terrorists, including drones, for cross-border smuggling of weapons and drugs. In our interconnected world, traditional borders are no longer the sole barriers against threats, and instead we face an intricate web of challenges that range from transnational terrorism and cyber attacks to hybrid warfare. These threats do not respect national boundaries, and they demand a unified response rooted in transparency, mutual trust and collaboration. India reaffirms its resolve to fight terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. On 22nd April 2025, the terror group, the Resistance Front, carried out a dastardly and a heinous attack on the innocent tourists in Pahalgam, in the Indian state of the Jammu and Kashmir. 26 innocent civilians, including a Nepali national, were killed. Victims were shot after they were profiled based on the religious identity. The Resistance Front, which is a proxy of UN-designated terror group Lashkar-e-Toiba, claimed responsibility for the attack. The pattern of the Pahalgam terror attack matches with LET's previous terror attacks in India. In exercising its right to defend against terrorism and preempt as well as deter further cross-border terrorist attacks, India on 7th May 2025 successfully launched Operation Sindoor to dismantle cross-border terrorist infrastructure. We reiterate the need to hold the perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of reprehensible acts of terrorism, including cross-border terrorism, accountable and bring them to justice. Any acts of terrorism are criminal and unjustifiable regardless of their motivation, whenever, wherever, and by whomsoever committed. YESIO members must condemn this evil unequivocally. Excellency, India is committed to increasing its connectivity with the Central Asia. Better connectivity not only enhances mutual trade but also fosters mutual trust. However, in these efforts, it is essential to uphold the basic principles of the YESIO Charter, particularly respecting the sovereignty and the traditional integrity of member states. India has been consistent and steadfast in its policy in support of peace, security, and stability in Afghanistan. Our immediate priorities in Afghanistan include providing humanitarian assistance to Afghan people and contributing to Afghanistan's overall developmental needs. As Afghanistan's largest regional development partner, India continues to implement capacity building initiatives for the Afghan people. Excellencies, the COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the fact that the pandemics recognize no boundaries and that no one is safe till everyone is safe. This is a warning sign of how non-traditional security challenges like pandemics, climate change, food and water security, and associated societal disruption can impact our people's lives. These emerging challenges cannot be addressed without responsible policies and cooperation among nations. India's initiative on Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure aims not only at promotion of disaster resilient infrastructure, but also infrastructure risk management, standards, financing and recovery, etc. It is also an example of how countries are coming together to create and share capabilities to deal with humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. We have affirmed this intent through our policy through the acronym SAGAR, which implies security and growth for all in the region, and India's expanded vision Mahasagar, meaning mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across regions. Security and stability are most essential components to create a conducive environment for growth and economic development of the region. India has sought to build consensus on dealing with global challenges on the basis of motto One Earth, One Family, One Future, which is founded on our civilizational ethos of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. Mutual understanding and mutual benefit must be our guiding principles. Excellency, India supports greater cooperation and mutual trust among YESIO members. We should collectively aspire to fulfill the aspirations and expectations of our people as well as tackle today's challenges. We must all be in lockstep in our endeavor in strengthening stability and security in our neighborhood. Excellency, I am optimistic that the today's discussions would help us to deepen the understanding of our shared security challenges and explore new areas for future cooperation in the defense and the security field. Thank you very much, Excellency.
谢谢辛格布朗阁下。下面有请伊朗伊斯兰共和国
That was the Indian Defence Minister speaking in Qingdao in China, where the SCO summit is being held. The meetings are being held across June 25th to 27th. The Indian Defence Minister spoke strongly on India's stance against terrorism, making it clear that India reaffirms its resolve to fight terrorism in all its forms. Also mentioned the gruesome attack which took place in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April by the Lashkar-e-Toiba proxy TRF, and also spoke on India being consistent and steadfast in its efforts towards peace, stability in Afghanistan.
Absolutely. He did speak of capacity building initiatives that India has continued, also affirming that no one is safe till everyone is safe, bringing forth Sagar and Mahasagar concepts as well. He also spoke of radicalization of the youth and bringing those the perpetrators of the 22nd April Pahalgam terror attack to justice, and saying that he hopes that in the next 2 days they can deepen their understanding of their shared values and the security concerns. Now, the ceasefire may have taken effect yesterday, but make no mistake, the weapons remain ready.
Iran's most terrifying missile just touched the edge of space, and the world is still catching its breath. This next report takes a look at the most powerful weapon which was used by the Iranians in the 12-day war.
The plume pierced the heavens like a flaming sword as it climbed through Earth's atmospheric layers. This wasn't just another missile launch. This was Iran unveiling its most powerful weapon. The Sejil, a weapon so advanced it brushes the boundaries of outer space before delivering annihilation. With a two-stage booster system and a range of over 2,000 kilometers, the Sejil can strike Israel, US bases in West Asia. Iran's reach now stretches into parts of southern Europe. The missile also carries a heavy payload of 700 kg and travels at speed stopping Mach 5. It's the speed faster than sound itself that makes these hypersonic missiles so dangerous. The Sejil renders traditional missile defense systems obsolete. Enemy radars detect it seconds before impact, leaving military commanders helpless spectators to their own destruction. The solid fuel propulsion system eliminates traditional launch preparations. Unlike liquid-fueled missiles requiring hours of dangerous fueling procedures, the Sejil launches within minutes of command authorization. This rapid response capability transforms Iran's military doctrine from defensive to devastatingly offensive. Yet the Sejil represents merely one arrow in Iran's expanding quiver in the 12-day war. Iran unleashed Khaybar, which has a range of 2,000 kilometers, and Hajj Qasim with a range of 1,400 kilometers, among the several other missiles it fired over Israel. According to experts, Iran is working on several new cruise missiles designed for stealth penetration, hypersonic glide vehicles. Iran's military-industrial complex operates in shadows, engineering surprises that could reshape modern warfare. Israeli Air Force launched multiple rounds of assaults. Israel's precision strikes destroyed multiple missile launching sites, while Israel's spy agency led several audacious strikes to cripple Iran's military infrastructure. The war between Iran and Israel is no longer just about borders. It's now about supremacy, speed, range, and surprise. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
At least 4 people have been killed in 2 separate incidents in the occupied West Bank, including a 15-year-old boy,
who the Palestinian Health Ministry says has been shot by Israeli troops. The teenager was killed in the northern West Bank town of Al Yamoun, while 3 others died in a separate clash in the southern village of Kafr Malik.
Now, the Israeli military said that it opened fire after intervening in a clash between Israelis and Palestinians in Kafr Malik, where dozens of Israeli settlers set fire to property, prompting a military and police response. The scene erupted into violence with reports of stone-throwing exchanges. According to the IDF, several Palestinians opened fire and hurled rocks at the forces, who returned the fire.
The IDF further said that it is looking into the events in Al Yamoun, while the Ramallah-based health ministry said that the child, Ryan Thamer Hushie, was killed after being shot in the neck by the soldiers.
Furthermore, 7 Israeli soldiers were killed in Gaza in an attack on their armored vehicle in one of the deadliest incidents for its forces in the more than 20-month war. According to the Israeli military, the troops were operating in the southern city of Khan Yunis when their vehicle caught fire after assailants attached an explosive device to it. In the Israel-Hamas war since October 7, 2023, more than 440 Israeli soldiers have died so far, and somewhere close to 60,000 people have been killed in the Gaza region.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it a difficult day for the people of Israel.
Today is a difficult day. We lost 7 of our heroic soldiers who fell in the battle to defeat Hamas and free our hostages. Our hearts are with the families. We offer them all our love in this unbearably painful hour.
Meanwhile, health officials in the Gaza Strip said that Israeli attacks killed 79 people over the past day. 33 of them died while trying to access aid. Palestinian witnesses and health officials said Israeli forces repeatedly opened fire on crowds heading towards food, while the military said that it fired warning shots at people who approached its forces in a suspicious manner. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, in Israel's retaliatory military campaign against Hamas, at least 56,156 people have been killed in Gaza so far.
On Wednesday, a convoy of trucks carrying aid made its way into Gaza City. Masked men fired shots into the air to disperse large crowds. The clans of northern Gaza said that they helped facilitate the delivery.
Images showed aid trucks entering the Gaza Strip through the Zikim Gate, west of Beit Lahiya in the north of the territory. Groups of young men were seen protecting the vehicles from theft. In Khan Yunis, scores of Palestinians returned after a long wait to receive aid from the American-led group, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Workers transported blood bags and plasma units into Nasser Hospital in Gaza's Khan Yunis as part of aid that entered the Palestinian territory. Now, during his first visit to the Council of Europe since the start of the war, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky signed a landmark agreement aimed at prosecuting top Russian officials for the crime of aggression.
And renewed calls to put Russian President Vladimir Putin on trial. Listen to this.
Every war criminal must know there will be justice, and that includes Russia. And we are now boosting the legal work in a serious way. There is still a long way to go. Politically, we have already made big progress, and I'm grateful to the Committee of Ministers, to the Council of Europe, and to everyone showing leadership.
The tribunal was requested by the Ukrainian authorities and endorsed by the Council of Europe foreign ministers in Luxembourg last month. The Council of Europe said that the special tribunal will fill the jurisdictional gap left by the International Criminal Court, which cannot prosecute the crimes of aggression. It would be the first tribunal of its kind set up by the 46-member body.
Together with President Zelensky, we have signed a bilateral agreement between Ukraine and the Council of Europe today's signature is a decisive step toward establishing a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine.
While the ICC has issued arrest warrants for Putin over alleged war crimes, including the abduction of Ukrainian children, it does not have the legal mandate to prosecute the act of launching the war itself.
Zelensky said The Hague would be the ideal location for the tribunal and insisted that international law must apply to all with no exceptions and no double standards. He called for stronger unity between Europe and the United States and stated that Ukraine will triumph in fighting the Russian invasion if there is unity between Europe and the US.
Zelensky also met US President Donald Trump during the NATO summit in The Hague. During the 50-minute meeting held behind closed doors, Trump said that he would speak to Putin to push stalled peace efforts. There was, however, no mention of possible sanctions on Moscow.
Do you know President Trump?
We have heard of him.
We need strong connection with him. We need Europe. I think we need unity between Europe and the United States, and we will prevail.
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
Don't go anywhere. This is World DNA. On the other side, Kenyan memorial protests have now taken a deadly turn as several protesters have been killed and at least 400 others have been wounded. We'll bring you the complete report on the other side.
Also on the other side, a man who killed a 14-year-old boy in London during a rampage with a sword has been found guilty of murder. The man killed and skinned his cat before driving his van at a pedestrian and slicing him with a sword. We'll get you the latest on this on the other side as well.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Haim. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
NATO countries vote to raise defense spending to 5% of the GDP at their summit in The Hague. US President Trump terms the move a historic milestone but vows to make Spain pay on trade for resisting the NATO spending hike.
President Donald Trump says US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth will hold a major news conference as his administration pushes to quell doubts over the damage done by US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities.
US President Donald Trump says the Israeli justice system should drop its corruption case against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump calls the corruption probe a witch hunt that is politically motivated.
Ecuador's president announces the capture of country's most wanted fugitive, the Los Choneros gang leader Fito, a year after he escaped from prison.
Eiffel Tower disappears behind a curtain of rain and clouds as a heavy storm in Paris brings gushing winds and heavy rain on Wednesday.
The dollar fell to its lowest since 2021 against the euro and pound as traders bet on Fed rate cuts while focus shifts to US tariffs ahead of a key July deadline.
At the NATO summit in The Hague, light moments stole the spotlight as US President Donald Trump was nicknamed Daddy by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte.
Well, the exchange happened as the two leaders joked about Trump's schoolyard analogy of Iran and Israel, describing them as fighting kids. Rutte quickly chimed in, saying, and then Daddy has to use strong language, quote unquote, a nod to Trump's rare F-bomb outburst earlier. Trump, known for his blunt rhetoric, laughed it off, saying everyone said you have to use a certain word.
They're not going to be fighting each other. They've had it. They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easier to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
Rutte, who's being called the Trump whisperer for his efforts to keep the US president engaged at the summit, defended his remarks, saying Trump is a good friend who deserves praise for his decisive stance on Iran and pushing NATO members to increase defense spending.
Thank you.
I think he's a good friend, and when he is doing stuff which is forcing us to, for example, when it comes to making more investments, I mean, would you ever think that this would be the result of this summit if he would not have been re-elected president?
A man who killed a 14-year-old boy in London during a rampage with a sword has been found guilty of murder.
37-year-old Marcus Adoni Monzon nearly decapitated a schoolboy, Daniel Honorin, during a 20-minute series of attacks in Hainaut, East London in April last year. He also assaulted several other people, including police officers.
The prosecutor said that Monzo killed and skinned his cat before driving his van at a pedestrian and slicing him with the sword, murdering Daniel and then trying to murder a police officer as well. He then broke into a house and attacked a sleeping couple in bed before leaving after their child began to cry, finally wounding a second police officer before his arrest.
With a large sword in his hand, I see one yellow jumper. Move.
Mate, drop that now! Drop it! Drop it now! Drop it! Drop it now! Drop it! Drop the sword! Drop the sword! Like close, more units, more units! Police officer stopped! Police officer stopped! Right! Yes, it's been stopped!
Yeah, totally take for the governor, quick!
Lock your doors! Lock your doors!
Now, London Police Chief Mark Rowley heralded the extraordinary bravery of his officers on the day, two of whom were left with life-changing injuries as they tried to apprehend Monzo. Monzo claimed he did not remember having carried out the attacks, and his lawyers argued that he should not be found guilty of murder as he was suffering from cannabis-induced psychosis. Prosecutors, however, argued at the start of the trial at the Old Bailey that self-induced intoxication did not provide a defense to the charge of murder. Monzo was convicted of Daniel's murder by a jury. He was also convicted of other charges, including 3 counts of attempted murder, for which there is no partial defense of diminished responsibility.
Yeah, totally take for the governor, quick!
4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, and lift.
नमस्कार मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, वाटर राइड 41 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत की इस ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
And now to a historic moment that has put India back on the space map after 4 decades.
India's very own group captain Shubhanshu Shukla and 3 others took off to space as part of the Axiom 4 mission to the International Space Station. After multiple delays and weeks of waiting, the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket finally blasted off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, carrying the crew aboard the Dragon spacecraft. Group captain Shukla from India is serving as the pilot of this international crew, joined by legendary commander Peggy Whitson from the US, mission specialist Slavoj Uznaski from Poland and Tibor Kapu from Hungary.
Now, according to Axiom, nearly 28 hours after its successful launch, crew will travel to International Space Station for an approximate docking on the 26th of June. That's today, 7 a.m. EDT, which is 4:30 p.m. India time.
The team will spend up to 14 days on board, conducting scientific research, commercial tasks and outreach programs. What makes this even more special, Shubhanshu Shukla will be the first Indian to set foot on the ISS. He is the first Indian in space in 40 years since Rakesh Sharma's iconic 1984 mission. Speaking from space, Group Captain Shukla shared a powerful message. This is not the start of my journey, but the start of India's human space program, quote unquote. Listen to this.
नमस्कार मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, वाटर राइड 41 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं और कमाल की राइड थी। इस समय हम 7.5 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की रफ्तार से पृथ्वी के चारों तरफ घूम रहे हैं और मेरे कंधे पे मेरे साथ मेरा तिरंगा है, जो मुझे बता रहा है कि नहीं हूँ, मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ। ये मेरी इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन तक की जर्नी की शुरुआत नहीं है, ये भारत के ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत है और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सभी देशवासी इस यात्रा का हिस्सा बने। आपका भी सीना गर्व से चौड़ा होना चाहिए, आप भी उतना ही एक्साइटमेंट दिखाइए। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत के इस ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Shukla is also carrying carrot halwa, moong dal halwa and mango nectar with him to the ISS to satiate his cravings for homemade food in space.
Well, during his stay, Shukla will be conducting 7 microgravity experiments developed by Indian scientists. ISRO and NASA will also collaborate on 5 joint research projects and 2 STEM demonstrations in orbit. The AX-4 mission includes over 60 scientists from 31 countries, from India to the US, Poland to the UAE. Truly a global collaboration in space.
The crew had been in quarantine since the 25th of May, facing multiple launch postponements due to technical issues, weather conditions and safety checks.
We should know that answer within the next couple of minutes.
Kenyan memorial protests have now taken a deadly turn. Several protesters have been killed and at least 400 others have been wounded, out of which 83 are in critical condition.
Thousands gathered in Nairobi to mark 1 year of anti-tax protests that rocked the Kenyan government last year. Demonstrations turned violent with agitators clashing with the police.
Water cannons were deployed and tear gas shells were fired to disperse the crowd. The Kenyan government issued an order directing to halt the live broadcast of the protest across radio and television.
In crowd control measures and attempts to thwart the protests, Kenyan police blocked main roads leading into the capital's central business district, while government buildings have been barricaded with razor wire.
Thousands of Kenyans have taken to the streets to mark the 1 year anniversary of the protests that contested the regime's tax hikes. So far, 60 people have been killed. Agitated civilians also put the parliament building under siege.
Opposition leaders and activists laid wreaths near the Kenyan parliament to honor those who died in last year's protest. Most of those who lost their lives were young people.
Freedom is coming. Freedom is coming.
The anniversary protest also comes amid soaring anger over police brutality, particularly in the aftermath of the death of 31-year-old blogger and teacher Albert Owang, who was killed in custody earlier this month following his arrest for criticizing a senior officer.
Now, ahead of the protest, President Ruto declared that his government would continue siding with the police. Now, the Israel-Iran conflict shows the high vulnerability of oil supply chains to many regional instability in West Asia.
The conflict brought Asia's reliance on West Asian oil to the forefront as well. The 12-day war laid bare the vulnerable nature of Asian oil buyers and traders.
Asia purchases over 80% of the world's crude oil. The conflict around Iran has raised concerns about the safety of key shipping routes, including the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. That has affected oil supplies, including Russia, of other countries in the region as well.
Critical global oil choke points highlight strategic vulnerabilities. Disruption in the most vital oil transit choke points in the world usually sends energy markets into turmoil. And these narrow passages, though small in geography, represent massive strategic and economic leverage in geopolitics. Now, the Straits of Hormuz and Malacca alone handle nearly 45 million barrels per day, over 40% of global seaborne oil trade. In an era of heightened geopolitical risk, monitoring these checkpoints is critical for energy security, global trade and military strategy.
The Strait of Malacca is the busiest oil transit choke point globally. Disruption here could sever energy supplies between the Gulf and Asia. The Strait of Hormuz is the most geopolitically sensitive choke point. Nearly a fifth of global oil consumption passes through this route. Suez Canal is a vital link between Europe and Asia. Any blockage has immediate repercussions, as shown in 2021. Bab al-Mandeb controls access to the Red Sea, and this route is vulnerable to the conflict in the Horn of Africa and Yemen.
Danish and Turkish straits have smaller flows but are crucial for Russian and Caspian oil exports. Cape of Good Hope is a costly and lengthy reroute if a Red Sea access is compromised, and Panama Canal has limited capacity but is strategically important for transatlantic flows. And the latest Henley Wealth Migration Report reveals that a record 142,000 millionaires are expected to relocate to a new country in 2025.
Now, these are high net worth individuals with over $1 million in liquid assets, and the number is set to rise to 165,000 in 2026. At the heart of this global migration is a dramatic shift in economic influence. The United Arab Emirates leads the list, expected to attract 9,800 millionaires this year, followed by the United States and Italy. On the other hand, the UK will see the largest net outflow of wealth, with 16,500 millionaires projected to move out. And this marks the biggest single-year loss in its history.
Tax efficiency, political stability and long-term residency rights are major drivers of this shift. The UAE continues to be a magnet for wealth due to its zero income tax, golden visa program and investor-friendly environment. Saudi Arabia too is emerging fast, with inbound millionaires expected to rise eightfold in 2025.
Interestingly, only 30% of these high net worth individuals use investment migration programs, and most rely on traditional visas like work, family or ancestry-based options.
For wealthy families, education has become a strategic part of the migration playbook. But with countries tightening student visa and post-study work rules, international education is no longer a guaranteed pathway to residency. With $63 billion in liquid wealth on the move, the geography of global opportunity is rapidly being redrawn.
And on to sports now. Barcelona one step closer to returning to their iconic home, the Camp Nou.
Spanish champions will play a friendly there on August 10th before permanently moving back in September. The traditional pre-season Joan Gamper Trophy match will only mark the stadium's partial reopening, with construction work continuing in various areas.
The Catalan Giants have not confirmed the initial capacity, but local media reports suggest that the capacity for the pre-season match be limited to 35,000.
Barcelona are still expected to start next season with 3 away games. After that, home matches will resume with a capped attendance of around 50 to 60,000 as renovation work continues between fixtures. The Catalan Giants have been based at the city's Olympic Stadium for the last 2 seasons, while extensive modernization work is carried out at their long-time home. The Camp Nou is getting a complete overhaul, including a new third tier, a dual VIP ring and a fully covered roof. The $1 billion project is set to be completed by the summer of 2026, with the final capacity expected to rise to 105,000, making it the largest stadium in Spain. Well, Indian prodigies and Magnus Carlsen, they seem to be having an unusual connect. The world number 1 just can't seem to shake them off.
And this time it was a schoolboy from Delhi who gave him a real scare in an online game.
Meet Arith Kapil, just 9 years old and already taking on legends. In a recent early title Tuesday chess tournament, Arith came within seconds of defeating world number 1 Carlsen.
The youngster had the 5-time world champion in a completely lost position. But with only seconds left on his clock, Arith couldn't convert his advantage in a tough rook versus minor pieces endgame. He settled for a draw but won the internet. He played the game from a hotel room in Georgia, where he is currently representing India in the U10 World Championship.
The event was eventually won by another Indian, Pranav, with a stunning 10 out of 11 score.
All right, on to updates now from the world of entertainment. Glastonbury, the world's largest greenfield music festival, opened its gates to around 200,000 ticket holders who will see performers ranging from Olivia Rodrigo to Rod Stewart and Charlie XCX. The 2025 edition sold out in 35 minutes before any headliners were announced. Pop rock band The 1975 will headline the main Pyramid stage on Friday, while Neil Young tops the bill on Saturday. Rod Stewart, 80, will take the coveted Legend slot on Sunday afternoon, and 22-year-old US singer Olivia Rodrigo will be closing the show later that evening. The latest trailer for Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four: First Steps has landed, offering a dazzling look at Marvel's first family and confirming the arrival of one of their most formidable foes. Galactus, set to hit theaters on the 25th of July 2025. The film promises a retro-futuristic journey with high stakes and a unique tone.
That's not really something I say. It's clobbering time! That's just in the cartoon.
Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali and the cast of Jurassic World Rebirth walked the red carpet in New York for the film's US premiere. More about it in this next story. Take a look.
To the roots, you know, and you get, I think the film, it's obviously very entertaining and explosive and all of that, but I think there's a real moral dilemma, you know, that rests in the center of the film that hopefully will also capture the audience's, you know, attention.
I mean, there isn't a challenge on shooting on film. It's kind of a beautiful thing. Basically, what happens is no one can quite see what you're getting, which I think is really good, because what it means is that everyone has to just have faith in each other.
Dramatic scenes unfolded over Florida's Manatee River as not one but two water spouts twisted into view.
Stunning drivers and drawing crowds as well. The rare twin phenomenon spun up by a powerful storm turned heads and cameras skyward. We're going to leave you with this one. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events